it's just a delight to see the youngsters mature, and I think the firm has a good name in the marketplace. People respect it, and a lot of people say, when we hear that you're dealing on the other side, we're happy to work with you.
Welcome to Listen Without Prejudice, your exclusive gateway to one of London's leading law firms. In each episode, we dive deep into the stories, insights, and expertise that make Bishop Sewell a trusted name in the legal community. Join us as we explore everything from the latest legal trends and case studies to practical advice on residential and commercial property, corporate and commercial law, employment, family and divorce matters, private clients, and dispute resolution. Whether you're a legal professional, a client, or simply curious about the law, Listen Without Prejudice is here to inform, inspire, and engage. Now, without further ado, let's get the conversation started.
Welcome to the show, everyone. I'm delighted that we've got Stephen Bishop with us today, our founding partner, to talk about Bishop Sewell and the history of Bishop Sewell. Stephen, welcome.
Good morning, Mark.
Good to have you with us today. So we're going to share some thoughts and reflections about Bishop Sewell. And there's quite a long history, actually, isn't it? Going back to 1979.
Yes, it is quite a long history, I'm afraid.
So we could be here for quite a long time. But perhaps just let's begin at the beginning. Tell me about Bishop Sewell. Why did you start Bishop Sewell?
Well, I was in a city firm with Jill Sewell, and they were an old-established city firm, but they were in the wrong place at the wrong time, and with all the developments in the city opening up, they weren't destined for the long term, and they were thinking of merging.
Right.
And there were 9 partners, and they were in talks with another firm, but there's only room for 7 partners. So we were in a partners meeting, and Jill Sewell, Sewell, the Bishop of Sewell,
Indeed, yes.
leant across the table and said, "Well, that's all right. Steve and I'll set up on our own." And they said, "Oh, do you mind doing all that?" And we said, "No, all right then." And that was it.
Okay.
And that's how we started.
So that's how did you first meet Jill? Was that how you met Jill? You were working together? Or?
Yes, I moved into the city in 1976, and Jill was an assistant to one of the company commercial partners, having previously been at Ashurst, so she was quite one of the top quality firms.
And what was her background then? Because I don't think we know you're very well known in property, but what did Jill do?
Oh, she was mainly company commercial.
Okay. I mean, I have the pleasure of having worked with Jill, obviously, many years ago, but you obviously, not everyone listening to this will necessarily know about Jill, which is very much part of the founding board. I mean, 50% of the original board was female, so there we are.
Yes, it was. So quite diverse, which is, I think, was good for the firm.
And which continues.
And she was we were together for 25 years.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's come back to that. Was it love at first sight then?
Well, I wouldn't say that, because she was actually married to a barrister.
Right, okay.
And had a child that I had an enormous respect for Jill, she had a great intellect, and she was just and still is a very lovely person.
Yeah, she's very capable. I mean, I can say from the time I worked with her, very capable corporate lawyer, very very diverse range of portfolio of clients. Yes, people in the employment side as well as on the corporate space. But yeah, it was all good time. So right back in the early days, I mean, it's quite tough starting out on your own. Just you and Jill, perhaps? It was just the two of you, is that right?
Well, we had a secretary.
Okay, yeah.
We used to call the dragon, because she, Rosemary Spiller, bless her, and she set up all our systems, some of which we are still
using
today.
Mm-hmm. And so what kept you going in the early years when it was tough? What was the motivation?
We thought that we had a product that was slightly unique in the legal sphere, in that we were passionate about what we did. We thought that we could do the job at a reasonable price and keep our clients happy, which has proved the case over the years.
Indeed, one of some of our core values. So yes, and so what were the first offices like then? Obviously, I know our current offices, and I can remember 2 or 3 moves back, but what was the first?
Well, they were opposite at Holborn Tube Station.
Yeah.
They were on the 2nd floor above a bank, and we had 3 rooms.
Okay, yeah.
And Rosemary was in the middle room. She was the secretary. I had 1 room, and Jill had the other room.
I seem to remember a story about the photocopiers. Do you want to tell me about that?
Yes, well, we ran one of the first cases under the Inheritance Family Revision Act, and it came to trial, and because we just started the firm, a lot of photocopy salesmen kept trying to get us to use their photocopies. So we had quite a few on APRA. Basically, what happened was we made a lot of money at the trial by doing all the court bundles.
Okay.
Jill and I spent the whole weekend photocopying all these bundles for the judge, the other side, at 10p a sheet. And we made more money out of that than we did out of the litigation, which we won, by the way.
Okay, I was
and we won the first cases. Yes.
Is that one of the first contentious cases?
It was indeed.
Yes. Wow, and it's in the private client
and
sphere
it was
as well.
Slaughter and May at the time.
Wow, fantastic.
I took my secretary to court with me on the basis that they had lots of people there. It was just me. So
excellent. So, I mean, obviously the firm's a lot bigger today than it was then. What led to the initial growth of the firm?
Well, Jill's pregnancy.
Right.
Basically.
Okay.
After we were going for about 6 months, she came in to admit to me that she was pregnant with her second child. And at that stage, we needed support in the corporate sector. I mean, that's when Richard Williams joined us.
Oh, okay. Oh,
so he was our number 3.
I see. Okay, so one of the other original members of the Bishop Sewell family that I obviously know as well. So, I mean, let's think back. So, obviously, we've got 45 years in sight there, but perhaps can you pick out a couple of key milestones for me? What, the big growth spurts, or what happened next? Maybe 2 or 3 of those in that journey.
Well, we've basically grown organically over the years, and we found that we were always constrained by the properties that we were in, because we kept outgrowing. And we ended up with 3 floors in High Holborn. We then moved to Russell's, Great Russell Street, which was a lovely building. And the freeholders were, of course, the British Museum. I think our biggest spurt to growth was when we moved into Bedford Square, because we moved into offices which were double the size of the previous offices, which enabled us at that stage to really put in the resources and to grow.
Yeah, I mean, and were there sort of key acquisitions at that time or other things that came about?
A lot of the acquisitions were 1 or 2 partner firms that were coming to the end of their lives and they wanted a base. So we would take them on board, but mainly it was organic.
Well, I remember because I was with you during some of that time. Obviously, I was there from 90 Great Russell Street, can go back a long way. It's the British Museum. That building was fantastic.
That's identical to me, Mark.
Possibly it could have been, yeah. We're going back a long way to show everybody. I think you can, absolutely. I have no problem with that. Good to learn from somebody who knows what they're doing at the end of the day. And yeah, I mean, obviously lots of things changed since then. I mean, there were probably 4 or 5 partners when I joined, and then it got bigger and bigger. And obviously we were probably 35, 40 people back then. We're going back more than 20 years. And now, look at us now, over 100 people, single office in central London. So yeah.
And it's just so lovely to see the youngsters come in, mature, grow, and quite often move on. But they always seem to keep in touch.
Yeah, I mean, there's the long-standing Bishop and Sewell family really is that, isn't it? There's lots of people out there that
it was always designed as a family firm where we try to look after our employees as family members.
Indeed, well, as we often like to say, that family come first.
Indeed.
Absolutely, yeah. So what about some of the challenges that you've had to overcome, both maybe in the personal space and the business space? Do you want to pick a couple of those that we could talk about?
Yes, well, that's always quite difficult, isn't it? To remember one's challenges.
Yes.
I think we overtraded between our second and third years, and we nearly had a bit of a disaster.
Right, okay.
That was one. I think it's the stresses, I think, and the challenges you have is when you decide you've got to go up a stage and move offices, actually. They're the biggest problems we've ever had, I think. We've always had a spread of clients, which is, I think, is good practice. So if a client falls by the wayside for any reason, it didn't impinge on the business as a whole.
Yeah, so we've never really been over-reliant on any individual or singular client, and I think that's a very, very good and strong thing, absolutely. So if we were to go back in time, go right back to the beginning or even somewhere earlier on in the journey, is there anything you would have done differently?
I don't think so. No. when I started in the law, I always wanted to be my own master. I wanted to see whether I could run a practice. I think Jill and I learnt how not to run a practice by being in the city. Bless them. And they were lovely, lovely people, but they were very old school, and they hadn't caught up with modern technology or anything like that. So we worked on the basis that we might go bust after 3 months. And I've always had that in the back of my mind. Everything's always, are we right for the next 3 months? And Jill and I decided that if it didn't work out, we had a bit of fun, and we would go back and work in the profession and pay off any debts that we had. But we were lucky that that didn't actually happen. So
hasn't seemed to need to happen yet. That's it for sure. So continued success, which is great. So, I mean, obviously you've got lots and lots of client-facing experience over many years in practice, but do you want to share some of the better things? I mean, what's the best thing anyone's ever said to you?
A lot of clients have appreciated, and we have made a significant add-on to their lives. And a lot of them, or some of them, have said, "Well, we wouldn't be where we were if it wasn't for you and what you did, because you seem to be passionate. We can always get hold of you. You have empathy with us. You're available all times, and you get the deal done."
There you are. So part of being a life's trusted advisor. So that's very interesting. Perhaps let's just have a little look at some people. Obviously, there's a wide panoply of people out there. We've got lots of people in our time here at Bishop Sewell. But what's the most surprising thing that someone's ever said to you that you can repeat on air?
I don't think I can. I don't think I have an example of that, I'm afraid.
Sometimes you told
I think there's a solicitor-client relationship.
Well, indeed, we can't breach client confidentiality, but some practical things. I mean, you've all said to me things like, about to exchange contracts, ring up and just check they still want to do it, because last 5 minutes ago they were telling you, yes, we want to buy the property and we've got to get on with it.
Well, I always ring up in the morning, just make sure they haven't died overnight.
Or they're still together, or if they're a couple, that you never know. So, I mean, there's always, life's full of surprises, absolutely. Let's look back to our former partners, Richard, Michael, and some of the others that we've worked with over the years. I mean, is there anything, tell me a bit about working with them. Where did they come from, and what did they do?
Well, Richard, he came in as mainly commercial conveyancing to start with, but he then moved into company commercial and eventually ended up in banking. Very good in banking. He's very intellectual, as Richard, and an absolute delightful partner to be with. And I've always felt with my partners, it's like a marriage, really. You're married to them all. Michael came in to do family law, and he had a great breadth about him because, of course, he's deputy district judge as well. So he would go off doing his judging, and he would see the world in the round. So he would bring his experiences back to the office.
And who would you like to say hello to who might be listening to this, maybe that we haven't heard from for a few years, or someone that you'd like to perhaps reach out to?
Well, I would really like to reach out to all the people that I've come in contact with, particularly those that worked with me in the practice, to see how they're getting on, and be lovely to hear from them as to what their progress is in life, both during their work and their families.
Yeah, so obviously you're in contact, and you're still working today, aren't you? In the practice, very much so. And so, yeah, easy to find. So, reflecting on the challenges of running a business and growing the business, I mean, what makes a good leader in the legal business, in your view?
Well, that's quite a difficult question, Mark, because I've always felt that I'm not a number one. I've always liked to have them. Jill was a number one, and I think then when Jill retired, Michael then became number one. So I've always felt that I was a bit of a supporting act, really, a sort of behind the scenes, chivvying everybody along. I like to see everybody at least once during the week. I know about their families and their problems, the employees, that is, and to make sure that they're coping with their work, whether they've got any problems, and to give support.
I think you're a very natural manager in that way. I think you're very good at talking to people, and that's part of the skill. I think that people know who you are, and they know that you know who they are. I think that's very, very, very critical key thing. So perhaps what does it take to succeed as a lawyer and a business owner? Perhaps some of the younger people out there listening to this might think, well, I'd like to have a go at that one day. What would your advice to them be?
My advice to everybody is if you want to do something enough, you will do it. The world is your oyster. And I came from quite a humble background, and I had to work quite hard to get where I wanted to, but I had a passion and vision and determination, and you can do it. And that's what I say to the youngsters when they come in, when I meet them for the first time, whether they're down in the accounts department or in the office downstairs. If you want to achieve something, you will do so. It's possible.
It's about motivation, isn't it? Absolutely, yeah. So
bloody minded, you tried that there.
Oh, determination, absolutely. Yeah, isn't that right? So what makes a good BNS lawyer? What sets BNS apart then?
I think it's the passion for what we do, as I said previously. I think you have to be their best friend throughout the process, and they rely on you, and you have to have that trust between you. And when the job's finished, they go away, and hopefully 4 or 5 years later, they come back again, and you start off where you left off.
Well, if you've done a good job for them and there's a good relationship, there's every chance they're going to tell somebody else. And I think that's another thing, don't be too modest, Stephen. You've been very, very good at that over the years, that people have found it worked very well for them. And as a result of that, they've come back and they've decided to engage you and other people in the firm again. So here's an interesting one for you. So if you hadn't been a lawyer, what would you have done? If you hadn't done this, what would you have done, Stephen?
I probably would have gone into retail. I would fancy building up a sort of something like a supermarket chain or something like that. So something where you're in front of people.
Mm-hmm. You're very much a people person, aren't you? Yeah, absolutely. Okay, talking to people every day. And perhaps, looking back over the last 45 years, I know that's a very hard thing to do, and maybe don't just pick one, but what would you say one of your biggest achievement to date is?
That is a very difficult question. Although I think we've achieved a lot over the last 45 years, I feel that we could possibly achieve more if we had more direction. Mm-hmm. We made quite a lot of mistakes.
But we've learned from those mistakes, haven't we? They've only grown.
Yeah. But it's just a delight to see the youngsters mature, and I think the firm has a good name in the marketplace. People respect it, and a lot of people say, when we hear that you're dealing on the other side, we're happy to work with you.
Yeah.
Never try to shortchange anybody.
Mm-hmm. You can have, you have another client, but you can't have another reputation or another career at the end of that. It's very important.
Yeah. Somebody says it takes years to build a reputation, and you can lose it in seconds.
Absolutely. So, don't be too hard on yourself, Stephen. I think we've achieved a hell of a lot in the last 45 years. I've only been part of that journey for a little while, but, ambitious, passionate, inclusive, those are part of our sort of watchwords. And I think you encapsulate those values, which is one of the reasons why we've had
kind of you to
the
say.
Success that we've had. So one of your biggest successes has to have been founding Bishop Sewell, because it's provided excellent legal services to many people in the marketplace, and also provided a wonderful place to work for a number of people over the years as well.
I think it's a good base to move on, but it's taken 45 years to get there, which is, in some people's minds is a very long time when you see some of these firms seem to pop up and grow very rapidly.
We're not here for 5 minutes, Stephen. That's the point, you see, for the lifetime, for the journey, as we also like to say.
Well, don't forget, you're still in 3 months' time. We might be going past it. So.
Well, indeed. Okay, so finally then, so where next for BNS then?
Well, I think the mantle has moved on. I ought to ask you that question, Mark, really, not me. I hope that I left a legacy. I hope I left a good base. And I have to say, it's in your hands. I can see that it will move on to what you want it to achieve, which is, I think, a top 100 independent law firm.
Absolutely, very much so. Very much in line with our vision, though, as you as our founder. So, Stephen, thank you very much for talking to us today. It's been a pleasure hearing about your words of wisdom, and thank you for your time, as ever.
Thank you very much, Mark.
Okay, pleasure.
That's all for today's episode of Listen Without Prejudice. Whether you're navigating a property transaction, a corporate, commercial, or family matter, we're here to guide you every step of the way. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date on future episodes, where we'll continue to explore the latest trends and challenges across our core practice areas. Do you have a question or topics you'd like us to cover? Or do you want to reach one of our experts? Feel free to get in touch via LinkedIn or through our website, bishopandsewell.co.uk. Thanks again for tuning in. Be sure to join us in our next episode, where the conversation continues. Until then, take care.